So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're very pleased to have Eleisha Stevens here as our presenter today. So Eleisha has worked extensively with the Canadian government, public and private organizations in the areas of employee engagement and recognition best practices, client relationship building, loyalty and retention strategies, leadership development and talent management, organizational brand and communication strategies, customer experience, sales, marketing and technology trends, coaching, public speaking, and she does podcast sessions with global leaders. She's the founder of InspireWorx, and she is a director on the Aurora Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. So we're excited to have her here today. Just a couple of housekeeping tips before I turn it over to Eleisha. We will have a question period at the end. If we could use the chat for that, if everybody could just put your questions or your comments in chat, and then I will bring them forward to Eleisha when we have a break. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Eleisha. Welcome everybody, and I'll be locking the room shortly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I have to say I've been a board member with the Aurora Chamber, and it's been such a privilege to get to know many of you that are on the call today, and looking forward to certainly meeting more of you as well. So yeah, this is a very, very hot topic, and first of all, I hope that you and your families are all well and striving and surviving through these very challenging times. Let's call it out. It's crazy, right? And we've all felt the pain. We felt the anguish, personally, and, the challenges with our business. And we're starting to realize, cutting through the noise and the fact that we can also see some really good opportunities. And I always say my biggest thing is with change comes challenge, but opportunities are always there before us, right? We find new ways to really grow and thrive and to lead and to innovate, right, within our organizations. And there's such a huge futuristic opportunity for all of us. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna share my screen and we'll get right into my presentation. So just bear with me for a second. And we'll get to it. Okay. So I think what is really important, first of all, is to really talk about, what is our purpose, right? So when we look at this new world, this new change of era, we need to really look at ourselves, and we need to look at the businesses that we're representing or leading. And it really calls out that, we need to really focus on that opportunity. And how do we effectively lead and engage our teams and manage, our teams during these times, and certainly move forward, as many of us may continue to virtually, become nomads in some cases, and importantly, reconnect with our purpose, which I'm just speaking about. And let me get into that. So who is this webinar for? So it's for all of you. So if you're a business owner, you're an HR, L&D manager, middle manager, aspiring leader, a coach, and consultant. And what we're going to talk about today is the new world of work. There are levels of leadership that we're going to get into. We're going to talk about how to get employees emotionally connected and how to unearth employee enthusiasm. There's the opportunity to become a major influencer of the new world. And I'm going to talk about that as well as some secrets to really fast track the employee happiness that we need to really get involved in. So I would love it if you could all ensure that you do have a notepad and paper available, as I really believe that there's some great insights that you can take back to your team and certainly apply to your own business. So as Sandra said, so my name is Eleisha Stevens, founder of InspireWorx. And as an engagement strategist, I've spent like 15 years, and it's my passion, with working with progressive organizations and understanding why culture and engagement is really paramount to the success of all industries. We're in the people business. So it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you have people that are supporting the work that you're doing, whether it's your employees or it's your contractors, or it's the people you do business with, your clients, we're in that industry. And so today's business landscape is, we're talking about, large corporate, medium, or small organizations. So I'm also a professional coach, a keynote speaker, a facilitator, trainer, and I've also been interviewing some of the world's global influencers and leaders around the topic of leadership and engagement internally and externally with some of my interviews and podcasts. And I have to say, locally, I have been doing some great interviews and sessions right here in our backyard with New Roads. And I believe that I have a few people here from New Roads Automotive. I've had the pleasure of interviewing Michael Croxon as a thought leader in his own right, because I look at him and the organization that he runs as certainly an organization that really excels in their people strategy. In fact, they have a number of pillars that they run by, and I would say that employee engagement, community, brand reputation is certainly on the top, and they have done an exceptional job, and they have just won Employer of Choice. So very much congratulations to you guys. So I would like to just move forward and just share with you that I've been very fortunate to be a part of great winning teams in my journey. Is sharing and learning collectively from my own teams has played a tremendous part in my success, in passion for engagement, including my personal team. I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but I'm just moving around the top center, which is my family that I absolutely love and hold dear to my heart. And so I believe that it is the essence of teams and support from your community that will always pull you through. And again, going back to how they can support you and the purpose that you're doing. So let me just get into this. So as I may have mentioned, I'm also partnered with a company called Engage and Grow, and I am leading the charge here in Canada. So with my work and experience, I'm seeing that their program and strategies is really making massive, I mean massive, cultural shifts across the world. The CEO is Richard Maloney here on the left, and we are actually in 86 countries. And they recently released a book on the importance of engagement, sharing stories and insights, coupled with, I don't know if you know this individual next here, but he is Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. And many of you know he is one of the leading global influencers and renowned authors around the world. So there was a book that was released, and I can certainly send you an audio copy if you want to put your information in the chat. And it really is a great collaboration around the impact of engagement, as well as stories and strategies as to how to create engagement within the workplace. And there is the book. And also, I want to just share with you that I want to give you a gift at the very end. If you stay with me, I think this will be a fantastic opportunity for you to share and leverage with your internal teams. So let's talk about the new leader. So first of all, when we look at an organization, we have roughly 7 leaders. Number one, we might have a disliked manager. They come to work, they have been promoted, they've been in the business for a long time, and maybe it's time to promote them, but they're not really sure how to lead people. Then we have the disrespected manager. So they've become a manager, but they're not necessarily liked. And maybe the reason being is that they have not really found out what it takes, or what it's like to become an actual leader in their organization. Then we have a managing leader, right? and they're getting it. They understand and they're learning and they want to improve. Then we have a respected leader. They're getting some following, you know. And one of the things I like to say is you don't get to call yourself a leader until you have actually been told that you are. Then we move into the accomplished leader. You are creating more leaders, right? Because you're becoming accomplished and people want to be mentored by you. That's a good sign. And then we have the stress-free leader, and especially in today's world, right? How do people perceive you? You know, and are you self-regulating very well? How are you showing up with your team, and are you communicating effectively? And then we move into the intuitive leader. And this is really important. Intuitive leaders, they've become in touch basically with their own intelligence center, right? They're energizing, they're authentic, they're regulating, and it's about personal development and working on themselves as to how they're perceived. You know, the world needs more of these intuitive leaders. And it's really, you know, to some degree, it's leading from a heart space, which I'll certainly get into a little bit later. So let's talk about the 3 objectives that I would like to really get into today. So I want to help prepare you for what's coming. I want to help guide you to stay ahead of the pack. I want to help you make a decision as to what is best for you and your business moving forward. So the options are, you can create the changes that you're after, and I think we're all looking for change. We can help you create the changes, or you can stay where you are. So let's take a look at the new world. My goodness, we certainly are in it, and there is an overhaul and a celebration of leadership. And I have to say this, again, as Sandra mentioned, I do podcast sessions with global leaders, and we're talking about so many different aspects of business, you know, from engagement to customers, to digital, to the global economy, there's so many things, and everything comes back to leadership, the effective leaders that are really going to inspire us all. And we can all be effective leaders. And the fat is being trimmed, and we can take a look at that, right? And government and companies are seeing that they can act now more quickly and efficiently. They're reevaluating their business and they're evaluating their employees, especially when we learn more about people and teams in tough times. I know for myself, you know, sitting on calls with an organization, and, you know, there's a number of people that should be on the call, and, you know, either they're late or they're just not on their game, and they're not self-regulating, they're not organizing their time effectively, and that accountability factor kind of creeps in, right? And so when times are tough, it can be a challenge, and we need to all become more resilient. So companies that are clear on their purpose will be effectively leading their teams, and they will effectively survive. So we're talking about the healing stage. This is the healing stage, and our purpose as an organization will shine brighter. The heart will now rule, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. And we are in a new personal growth era. So things are going to become even faster now, right? Online working is a new reality. I did a podcast session yesterday, actually, with a global leader on nomads and how we're all becoming digital nomads. And how do we work effectively through this period? Because I want to tell you, and I'm sure you already know this, but the majority of our workforce has now become remote, right? So it's a massive shift for all of us to, again, self-regulate and figure out how can I stay connected to the organization. But it is also about leadership in terms of they also need to help, you know, effectively communicate and strategize and keep us all, you know, engaged and accountable for the work that we're already doing. So, you know, that gets into my third point of employee connection is now absolutely critical. So we look at the new work stages. We have a new environment set up, in some cases, right? Those of us that are not working remotely, we have new time management structures. We also need to manage our own mind health, our physical health, and we also have to manage our team health with new workplace rules. So I am going to ask you a question. So what do you think is different about this workplace that you wouldn't potentially see in the past era? And I would invite you to put your thoughts into the chat. And I can't see the chat. So Sandra, if you could maybe share with me if anyone has a thought, that would be great.
There are no comments yet, but I will let you know. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone said black circles.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which are perimeters around where you can certainly move and work through. Absolutely.
Lots of sunlight.
That's a good thing.
No more physical contact.
Exactly. Exactly. So you will see that there are exclusion zones, no touch, right? It's basically what we're seeing in our supermarkets today. Oh, go ahead.
Life and clear space.
Okay, very.
Workspace and totally paperless, so no touch zone for printer.
Yes, I don't know if they've worked that one out yet, but I'm sure everyone's wearing gloves. So most importantly, yeah, so, you know, obviously people are not traveling so much. They're very much connected to their workspace. And people's space is going to become an absolute currency. This is the reality. And, you know, unfortunately, it's here to stay for a while. All right, I have another, so here we go. So now you can see some other examples of what that looks like. Pretty incredible. But it's fascinating to see how organizations are quickly shifting to really accommodate their teams. So I have another question for you. When we think of engagement, what are the behaviors of a disengaged employee? If you could write a word or a short description in the chat, that would be great. So when you look at this person, what do you see?
I'm bored. Daydreaming. Dispassionate. Preoccupied.
Yeah.
I want to go home.
Yeah, not engaged. I don't really love my job. I'm looking at my watch. Maybe there's some laundry I could put in. Yeah, so many thoughts there. And then let's take a look at this screen. Any thoughts here, everyone? Please put a word or a short phrase in the chat. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Heck yeah. Excited. Excitement. Passion. We can do it. Happy.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And if you think about that, you know, and I won't ask you to put this in the chat, but it's interesting, right? So what makes an employee happy and engaged and committed to go, and whether they're sitting at their kitchen room table or their living room or their home office, to really get excited about opening up that laptop and working. And it is around communication. It's around having an organization that is completely stated in their strong purpose, and they're recognizing individuals for their effort and keeping each other accountable. So I don't want to be a doom and gloom, but I am going to share with you some interesting stats that we're starting to see coming across the globe, and you will be mind blown. So 90% of young workforce is having difficulty working right now. I mean, that is nearly 100%. This is such a huge transition, and they certainly need more support. 75% of the workforce feels less connected. Certainly there's going to be an absolute maturity of this, but what happens with it, right? What happens when you're one of those 75% of the people that's feeling less connected? It builds anxiety and it builds fear, right? 66% feel less informed about what is going on within their organization. They don't necessarily see the vision. And I'm going to come back to that. It's about the vision, it's the purpose and the why. And, leadership, again, needs to step up and get better to really communicate and engage. And the last one is that 56% find it hard to get status updates, but also hard to give status updates. Again, goes back to leadership not connecting enough. And there are organizations that are doing this really well, and they are the ones that are going to come out of this, really, really affluent. They're probably, best engaging with their customers. And I want to say this, that leaders are the bloodlines of your culture. I mean, it's definitely people, but in these times when we're all working remotely from home, that's what we're looking at, right? We're looking at the leaders that are really trying to, or we hope that are effectively communicating. So let me just talk about this. So to be effective, people need to stay deeply connected to their work and the work of their team. So connection is key. And according to studies, especially with millennials and the younger generation, they're looking for companies that can provide them with purpose, number one, purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Right? So it really comes down to clearly defining your company, your purpose, your why. So I just wanted to share with you that I recently did a podcast with a global CEO, one of the world's leading professional services firm that was a client of mine a number of years ago when he was running Canada. And we collectively, actually, along with his leadership team, really took a close look at what his organization stands for and what the values and behaviors that the people that work for that organization really need to adhere in order to be successful. And as we talk about what great leaders look like, so Keith Farlinger is the individual I'm speaking about, CEO of BDO. He did a road show. I actually said, you need to get out on the road and go and speak with all of your 95 Canadian offices, with your chief people officer, and get their input and learn more about the needs of their small local offices in order to make them successful. And he did it. So I call that leadership. So, as we talk about it, if you have a stated purpose and you have your team rally around it, I mean, live it, breathe it, this will absolutely guide you, the company and the team that follows you, and your customers, importantly as well. So again, Keith Farlinger, who's the CEO of BDO, he now leads a team of 88,000 people. These are his followers. And why are they his followers? Because he created a strong stated purpose and he cares about people. Their purpose, actually, and I want to ask you actually to all take a note on this. Their purpose is so simple and it's so easy and it's so clear. It's people helping people achieve their dreams while also providing exceptional customer experience. That's it. It's simple. He shares that with his internal teams and he also shares that with his customers. Sorry, I just moved forward here a little bit. So, when I think about my why, it is really to create a globally engaged workforce where every leader and employee is inspired, connected, happy, and living their true purpose. Again, simply stated, and I would literally suggest all of you write your purpose down on your wall so that whenever you feel stuck or you feel that you're being off on your purpose, always revert back to that. So let's move forward. Okay, so PricewaterhouseCoopers, so they did a study on, what makes people the happiest. So it's commitment to well-being is the most important habit. Encourage individuality, which is absolute key. Inclusive teams are essential to success. Staged work days, they are here to stay. And up the engagement, absolutely. It is critical. So I think we can all agree that happier employees are more committed and productive. So what makes people the happiest? Again, Harvard did a 75-year study that found that people that were the happiest lived the longest, and that they were the ones that had multiple and meaningful relationships. So as it relates to the context of our new world of work, if great relationships are developed within our context of our work structure with our employees, they will be highly unlikely to leave, even for a 10% increase. And I know this for a fact with working with organizations the most. Opportunity and well-being is number one, folks. Opportunity and well-being. People, organizations that care about each other, even if you have one friend or two friends within the organization that you're working with, you're highly more likely to stay within the organization because you share a bond. So you may hear me say this a few times, but it is absolutely key. We need to start getting to know people more. Not so much on what they do, but who they are. And, I used to also work with Forrester, a global leading research and advisory organization. As Forrester coins it, we are living in the relationship economy. This is new, right? We are living in the relationship economy with our internal teams and our external clients. So let's just move forward. Okay, so when it comes to leadership and engagement, it comes to really helping people emotionally connect with our business. And studies have shown that company training is the least desirable way to learn. And we have to look at this as how do we effectively engage and support our teams, right? And this is according to Deloitte. So it's really educating the minds, but not changing culture is really not getting the job done. So we really have to all think about this. We have to change the way and the way that we really engage and activate employees. And I want to use the word activate because I think that is really key. So to change people, we need to change their mindset. Traditional training certainly has a place. However, we have to rethink about how our people think. So I'm just going to take a sip of water and get into an actual performance model. And I would really enjoy, and I think it would be really important for all of you to take a pen and paper and look at this. It's a great evaluation tool, and we'll get into this. So in order to have a great team, there are 3 key areas. So how do you do it, right? Here are the 3. We need to be connected, we need to be proactive, and we need to be productive, right? I think we can all agree on that, right? Sorry, I'm just going to move through some of these quickly here. My slide is not showing up the way that I wanted to. So we need to, first of all, ensure that when we have all 3 of these areas, we become energized, we become loyal, and we become fulfilled, right? So when we look at the proactive bucket, we need to have distinct behaviors and values. When we look at organizations, yes, they may have some values, but really what are the behaviors that we need to see out of those values, right? They can't just be words on the wall. They need to be very distinct. What do we want to see from our people, right? We need to also have leadership initiative and development. How are we leading? How are we engaging? How are we growing our teams? We need to have an area of opportunity of innovation and creation. And I'm going to say, this is not a top-down approach. This is about involving all of us to create that idea think tank that we can all be innovative creatures. And as I mentioned earlier, right, with the millennials and the younger workforce that's coming in, it's about mastery and it's about creation, right, and autonomy. So they want to be part of the solution. We also need to have multiple and meaningful relationships that I just mentioned before. Reward and recognition. My goodness, this has to be a huge one. There are so many milestones that get unnoticed with our employees, and we need to really be thinking about it, and we need to be acting on it more and more every day. You could have an employee that's working on a massive project, but if you don't reward and recognize even those small little milestones while that individual is working on that project, you're missing a huge opportunity. And for them, they may not feel as committed to the purpose if they don't feel they're being recognized for great work. Open and honest group feedback, huge. Another one that I will say is important. You know, organizations today are you know, doing these annual, or maybe it's a biannual review. We need to be reviewing our people, and maybe it's not formal. Maybe it's a week-to-week feedback session. People want to know how they're doing, and they also want to know what they need to do in order to move forward, right? It's about correcting. Could you imagine, let me just move back on this because this is a big one for me. Could you imagine working for an organization and, you know, they set you up and they say, okay, well, you know, in 6 months, we're going to do a review of your performance. So 6 months comes, you have your review, and they've now told you that you're doing something, you've been doing something kind of incorrectly over the past 5 months. What? That's a huge opportunity that's been lost, right? So we need to constantly be sharing, what are you doing well? What can you improve upon? And how do you move forward? So heart-based leadership habits, right? So this is an area of opportunity of what are you doing, you know, within your organization? What are you doing in your community? And I'll actually throw this back out to my friends at New Roads, right? They're doing some fantastic work around the community. And I got to tell you, and I know that Michael shared this with me, the more that people and employees give back, they feel the strongest, as we all do, right? So we need to focus on that. And then also having an accountability roadmap. So again, it's holding us all accountable to what we need to do in order to improve. And we all have areas of improvement. And as long as it's above the line, it's all good. And then of course, deep personal development, right? And that's another area. So sorry, I think I just went on there a little bit too long, but I think this is a really important piece for all of you. So when we think about, you know, the science of motivation, right? So we have neurological motivators, we have our core human needs, and we certainly understand how we learn the quickest. And let me just jump into that as I'm running short on time. And it really is about, you know, we have these pain, pleasure, reward, and punishment. And then our core human needs is all around love and variety and growth. I mean, you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing you think about, right? It's maybe your dog that's jumping into your bed, or you're thinking about, oh, I can't wait to go and work out, right? Or I can't wait to go to work. Hopefully it's going to be, I can't wait to go to work. So, and when we talk about how do we understand the quickest, and again, these are all studies that have proven this, it's around discussion, it's sharing, it's experiencing, and it's teaching. It's learning. And repetition and reprogramming is certainly the way, right? When it comes to high performance habits, you could certainly hypnotize people with this. I don't think it's going to work, but what it really comes down to is that what you need to become repetitive is acknowledging and reinforcing habits. My favorite stat ever is, you will become 8 times more successful as an organization, 8 times, according to Deloitte, if you put people first and profit second. I mean, that's amazing. And we're seeing this globally all over the world with some large organizations. They have, they've talked about, profit is obviously very important. And actually Forrester will even say this as well, that organizations that have put that down and said, if we work on our people strategy first, everything else will fall into place. So let's get into some more statistics. So we have only got 15% engaged over the globe, right? So we as leaders have a responsibility to evolve our strategies. We're failing. And people leave leaders and managers, not their organizations. So just 15% of people are engaged. So that is a crisis. We have accepted this as a society and we need to change it, right? We need to create a better culture. And I'm just going to move forward very quickly. So just in terms of, what that cost is, it's 34% of salary wasted. So let me just dive into this very quickly. So how much is disengagement really costing your business right now? So this is something that you might want to also take a note on, right? So this is a great tool to also bring to your CFO or your president to show the financial impact of having disengaged employees in your company. So let's say we have, in this case, we have 15 people in the business. If you have, based on the slide that I just showed you, if we have 88% of disengaged employees in the organization, that means that we have 13.2% disengaged employees with an average salary of $50,000, right? 34% is disengaged. And what is that costing? $17,000 per disengaged employee, right? So let's multiply that. So if you times that and you times that, what is the total cost? $224,000. Let's move that out and let's take a look at whether if you have 50 employees, what's the total cost? Staggering. I'm just going to pause there for a second and I just want to see if anyone has any questions.
Just something, a good idea. That's a direct cost. You can't even begin to quantify the opportunity cost of the disengagement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So it's not even just the financial component, but look at it from many aspects of your business, right? It's productivity. It's the disengagement that you're spreading around. I look at it as a virus. I don't want to call it the coronavirus, but it's a virus that literally is going throughout your organization because, it's people potentially standing around the water cooler, sharing things that may or may not be true around either a fellow employee or a leader. And so we really need to quickly understand and find out who those people are and take action. I mean, in many cases, they're slightly disengaged and perhaps we can, through mentorship and through certain engagement practices, we can bring them up. But there's certain people within an organization that literally must go. And I have to say this, it's good for the organization and it's good for them because maybe they're just not in their right space. Maybe this is not their calling and they're just hanging around because they need a job, right? So let's move forward because this totally brings me into to my point. And Sandra, sorry, I'm going to just check. I want to make sure I'm on time here.
Yep.
Okay. We're good. All right. So let's get into this, right? Around engagement. So how do we define employee engagement? So there's 3 levels. Certainly my goal is to take people from the red to the green, which I'm going to show you. So, people that are in the red they're disengaged. Again, as I mentioned, these people do less than is expected. And they're the ones, that potentially may need to find a new job. And certainly with the programs that I run, we quickly, in fact, within weeks, can identify those individuals because they're just not showing up. And they're not showing up in terms of it's not like they're being late. They're just not showing up in terms of their productivity. They're not showing up in terms of their ideas, their energy. And yeah, they're flagged. So anyway, so let's move into disengage. So they're doing just what is expected, right? So they're showing up to work, they're engaging with a couple of colleagues, but they're always constantly looking at their watch, right? When is it 5 o'clock? They're just getting by. Do we want that in our organization? Absolutely not. What we want is to have engaged employees that do more than is expected. These people are emotionally invested. They're focused on creating value for their organizations every day. They are totally zoomed into the purpose because it relates to their internal purpose as well, right? They are involved, they're enthusiastic, they're committed, and they contribute to their organization in a positive manner. And they're most likely the ones that will drive innovation, right? And we're in a time of innovation. We need to be more innovative in our organizations. So they drive innovation, they drive growth and revenue, and that is exactly what our companies need today, right? And so they help to build new products and services, and again, generate ideas and create great, exceptional experiences with our customers. And that is the correlation to customer satisfaction. If you and your teams are working with your customers, you need to ensure that your employees are energized, they're engaged, and they want to support your most important asset. Second important asset. Your employees are your first asset. Your customers are your second. So there you go. Let me move forward. So that is sort of the goal that we want to get to. So these are sort of the engagement keys that I bring into a company to really help them engage and focus and figure out where all of these, how does all of this fit in terms of how do we move our business forward. All right. And with some of the work that I've been doing too, we're seeing average engagement growth rates for small and medium enterprises up to a 257% improvement, and corporate and government 361% improvement. Certainly, we're in all industries, we're in thousands of businesses across the world because we are a people business. So it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. So one of the big things that I just want to quickly share that's really important if you're taking a look at the own engagement of your organization, before you do anything, and I'm going to stress this, before you do anything, you need to understand where your organization is at, right? So you need to get a baseline, you need a temperature check, you need to survey your people. And I would have to say this is the time, because of all the change that we've gone through. You've lost most of your staff, or maybe it's one or two, but you need to ensure that they're engaged and they are they're with you on this ride. So I think engagement surveys are really important. So I actually offer engagement surveys, and it's part of the program that I run, or the programs that I run. And it's a quick 9-question survey that could take someone 30 seconds to complete. You at least get an understanding of where they're at. So, here's a couple of examples. In my team, I'm surrounded by people who share my values. So I certainly run a ton of programs, and anywhere from engagement programs for women, for organizations, for salespeople, for millennials, and now we have this a recent program called Achievers Club. It's an engagement and culture program for today's environment specifically. So as I wrap up, I would love it if you are interested in everything that I've been saying and sharing with you today. If you want to just have a quick 20-minute discovery chat as to where you're at and where your business is, I would certainly be open to that. And I also want to share my gift to you, which is basically the survey. And I'm just going to go back to that. Hold on one second. Not very good with my PowerPoint. So my gift to you is a free employee engagement survey. This is something that normally would cost organizations, roughly 650 Canadian dollars. If you are really super interested in really understanding the engagement and culture of your people, I'd be happy to provide that for you. And I think we just had someone enter the waiting room.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. Yeah, so certainly if you could provide your information, a simple email or your telephone number, I would be happy to get back to you. What I am hoping to do is perhaps if we have a few people, I'll get on another Zoom call and we can talk about what are the benefits of doing a survey, and certainly what can you expect from this. Okay, excellent. All right. All right. So I'm just pausing for 1 second, just getting a message here. All right, so let's look at this holistically, right? So quite simply, it starts as we end. It starts with transforming one small team at a time. And then it just keeps on growing. And that is the best part of engagement and our philosophy. That is why this is a great business model. So all of a sudden, the happiness just starts to permeate throughout the organization. Happier people break down silos. They work collaboratively. They're making friendships in the heart space along the way. You're building a business where everyone is engaged. It's about changing the world. One person, one company, community, and one country at a time. So I am so thrilled for all of you to be here with me today. And thank you for all of you that stayed throughout. And if there's any questions, again, I'd be happy to ask or answer any of these questions. And this is my vision. Truly, this is my passion. Creating a globally engaged workforce where every leader and employee is inspired, connected, and happy, and loving their purpose. Ultimately, making our world a better place, right? This is the world that we want our children to grow up in, and it's the world that we can co-create and help organizations become successful. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop my share. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
So we can use the chat for questions, or you can put up your hand.
Yeah, you can ask me right here if you have any questions.
I'll unmute everyone.
Perfect.
Everyone's unmuted now if you want to jump in.
Hi, Eleisha. Great job.
Hi, Marcos. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. This is so enlightening. I mean, everything that you've said today, I think just hits home. I would love to also hear what everybody else has to say. I mean, I'm pretty much in line with, I'm a follower, so I stand behind you. So love to hear what the others have to say about what you have shared today and the different sides of their businesses, how they're engaging their employees throughout this time.
Thank you so much, Marcos, for your comments.
Anyone else?
Don't be shy, guys. Come on.
Hi guys, it's Pardeep from the Big Aurora. Basically, what we try to do is we try to do bi-weekly Zoom calls with our brokers to just kind of see how they're doing and if they have any concerns, and just kind of be able to kind of talk to us openly and just keep them engaged, I guess, with us. That's
excellent.
Something we try to do every 2 weeks, pretty much.
Fantastic. And Pradeep, what is what are you getting back in return from your employees? Are they receptive? Are they, thank goodness that we're connecting? Yeah.
They're definitely, they're definitely receptive. We keep it very casual, you know, just tell them it's fine. Like usually it's early in the morning. So we understand you're in your PJs, bring your coffee and like, let's just talk and see how you guys are doing and how you guys are feeling. And, you know, even in terms of their feelings, like what are they feeling with everything going on, right? Because it's kind of good for us to openly have those discussions with each other as a team, right? How it's affecting you and how you're feeling.
Absolutely, and you really touched on such a great point right there. I would actually suggest if you could even do it more frequently, almost on a weekly basis, because I think people are literally sitting in their home environments, a little bit unsure of their own personal situation, their family, and their business. And, you know, going back to what I said earlier, especially with remote employees and my discussion with my podcast yesterday, it's about really getting to know, you know, who you are, what you're doing, what are you going through, right? I think that's, we need to really get into that human element and aspect of how are you doing, you know, like, are you able to pay your bills? Are you, you know, that type of thing. And then to get into that work mode, I think you're going to feel that you're going to have so much more respect back. So anyway, I commend you on that. I think that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Any other questions? Okay.
I think Joe was trying to say something, but he's muted.
Okay.
Okay, two things I'd like to say over the years I've learned is that we're in the people business no matter what we sell.
You got it.
People
You're absolutely
buy,
right.
the product is just a commodity. And the second thing that was stressed again, which I believe, is that ESI always comes before CSI. Employee satisfaction is always first, otherwise you can't have customer satisfaction. Happy people make happy customers.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, that's your first pillar, right? It's employee engagement. And if you don't have that right, how can you possibly have a great customer experience? How can you possibly, you know, deliver a strong product? Really, really good point, Joe. Thank you.
Alicia, it's Al Wilson.
Hi, Al. I can only see
Hi.
the top of your head.
Oh, that's because I don't want you to see anything.
Okay.
I need a haircut. A lot of businesses that are, you know, what we would, even the definition of small these days is very different. Small could be 2, it could be 10, it could be 15, it could be whatever. What do you say to the bosses who, if they have those communication lines open, would not want to do a survey because of people who are reluctant to be truthful? And even if it's anonymous, it's when you've got 10 people, sometimes it's pretty easy to figure out who said what, especially if there's any narrative involved in the survey. So I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm talking survey communications. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, and I've been doing survey work for the last 15 years. I've worked with the biggest survey organizations. I have to say that probably way more than 25% of people will never be honest. You could say that it's an anonymous survey, but people will still feel like somebody's watching. So they need to say the right thing, right? So survey is very important, but I also think you need to get in there, and maybe it's a third party, right, that goes into the organization and sits down and actually speaks to the team. And when I started, I talked about Keith Farlinger, the CEO of BDO. He did a road show to 95 of his 95 offices. And these are small businesses. They're 1 to 5 people that are running these companies. And he literally just sat down with them and rolled up his sleeves and he said, what do we need to do? Tell me, get it off your chest. Let's get into the realness of what we need to do and how do we grow. So there's a couple of options there, Al, and I hope that I answered your question, but also when you think about surveys, it is third party, and certainly the surveys that I do, they are not shared with employees. They're not shared. They're only shared in a high level with the senior level people. I do not share comments. I just want it to be respectful for everyone involved and just say, here's the buckets, here's the areas that you need to improve on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? And I know we're reaching the top of the hour, so.
I have a question.
Okay.
What would be your recommendation for solopreneurs? I mean, you can't survey yourself, and you know, you only have, let's say, one company, or one person in your company, or you're working from home, or you know, a lot of our members are in that space. How can we apply what we learned here today to that group?
Okay, that's a really great question. So I would suggest that you literally just sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation. And I look at it as a feedback session, feedback and feed forward, as I may have mentioned earlier in my session today. So it's an opportunity for you to sit down and say, what are we doing well, right? Me as the organization leader or company leader or business owner, and what can we improve upon? And then ask the question back to them. What do you think you could improve upon? And what are the opportunities, right? So having just an open, honest conversation will certainly bring out the great opportunity that you can both go, oh yeah, we should have talked about this earlier, or good information. Let's learn from that. The more that we are heart-based in how we communicate with our employees, the more we will get. If we are always just looking at, you didn't make that sale today, or you didn't close that deal, right? We're never going to win people's hearts over. So we need to get on that. Again, the relationship economy is now. We need to start creating relationships built on people, and it's people's emotions. This has been going on for years and years, and I'm finally glad that organizations are starting to get it. And I think sometimes it takes pandemics or crisis to actually see what's happening. And just quickly, before I let everyone go, I got to say this again on my podcast yesterday with one of these global leaders the whole conversation was on remote employees or remote or nomads. And he said, you know what has been so inspiring and so interesting? Because now we are all sitting in our home office, like me, in my living room, right? People are in their kitchen, people are in their home office. We're starting to get to know people more. We're getting to know them better. And because we're inviting them now into our home space. And, you know, it's a good thing. It's actually a great thing. So it's not about what you do, it's about who you are coupled with that. So I like to talk, sorry guys. Any other questions before I let you all go, as we are now at the hour? And thank you, James. I just saw your note here. I will certainly reach out to you.
Thank you very much. It's been great.
Okay. All right. Give me a thumbs up if everyone enjoyed the session today. Awesome. Awesome. So again, just before I let you go, if anybody wants to have any more information, feel free to give me a call. Certainly happy to support you. And if you need a survey, give me a call. We can do it. Okay?
Awesome. Thanks, Eleisha.
Thanks. Bye.
Have an awesome day.
Thanks, Eleisha.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.